The darkness of space stretched endlessly before Captain Min as he sat in the command chair of his patrol ship. It was supposed to be a routine mission, circling the outer edge of the Sol system, checking for asteroids or space debris. Nothing exciting ever happened out here. That's what he thought until the console started beeping. "Sir, I'm picking up something strange," said Lieutenant Min Ho from the communications station. His young face looked confused as he stared at his screen. "It's like a distress signal, but it's not in any format I recognize." Min leaned forward. His instincts, honed from 15 years in the Earth Defense Force, told him this was different. "Can you clean it up? Make it clearer?" Min Ho worked his controls, his fingers dancing across the holographic display. After a few minutes, a sound filled the bridge. It was alien, definitely not human, but there was something in it. Pain, desperation, fear. "Run a trace. Find out where it's coming from," Min ordered. Protocol said he should report this to Earth Command first. Protocol said he should wait for orders, but something in that sound made him want to move faster. The signal came from beyond the outer planets, in an area where nothing should exist. Min made his decision. Set course for the signal source, maximum speed. His second officer, Commander Wu, raised an eyebrow. "Sir, that's beyond our patrol zone. We should report this first." "We will," Min said, "after we know what we're dealing with. What if someone needs help right now?" The ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, and within an hour they dropped back into normal space. What they found made everyone on the bridge fall silent. Ships, dozens of them, maybe 100. They floated in the void like broken toys, their hulls damaged and dark. Some were leaking atmosphere, others drifted without power. These weren't military vessels. They looked like colony ships, transport vessels, family ships, and they were dying. "Life signs?" Min asked, his voice tight. "Detecting thousands, sir," Min Ho replied. "But the readings are weak. Their life support systems are failing." Min didn't hesitate. "Open all channels. Broadcast in every language we know. Tell them we're here to help." It took 20 minutes before they got a response. The flickered to life, and Min found himself looking at an alien face. The being had large, gentle eyes that seemed to glow with a soft blue light. Its skin was pale, almost translucent, and it had features that reminded him of both humans and something completely other. "Human vessel," the alien said in perfect English, though its voice carried a musical quality. We do not ask for your help. We only transmit our story so that someone somewhere will know what happened to us." "You're dying out here," Min said. "Let us help you." The alien, who introduced itself as a, shook its head slowly. "We are exiled. The Galactic Council has declared us criminals. To help us would bring their anger upon your world. We do not wish this for you. We only wish to die with dignity, knowing our story survives." But I told the story anyway. They had been part of the Galactic Council for thousands of years. They were peacekeepers, mediators, philosophers. They used their natural empathic abilities to resolve conflicts and bring understanding between species. They were trusted and respected. Then the Council ordered them to do something they could not accept. There was a species called the Myra, living on the edge of Council space. The Myra were peaceful, intelligent, and harmless. But they had something the Council's powerful members wanted. Their world was rich in a rare mineral needed for advanced technology. The Council declared the Myra incompatible with galactic progress and ordered their extermination. Every Myra, men, women, and children, billions of lives to be erased for profit. They refused. They said no species deserved genocide, no matter the reason. They tried to negotiate. They tried to find alternatives. They tried everything. The Council gave them a choice: kill the Myra or be exiled forever. They chose exile. There was taken from them. Their colonies were seized. Their ships were stripped of resources and pushed out into the void. The Council broadcasted their crime to every civilized world. They were criminals who the will of the galaxy. No one could help them. No one could give them shelter. Anyone who tried would become an enemy of the Council. For months they drifted through space, seeking help and finding only closed doors. Station after station refused to let them dock. World after world turned them away. They were running out of food, water, and power. Their children were dying. Their elderly were suffering, and they had nowhere to go. So you see, I said quietly, we do not ask for your help because we have learned that no one will give it. We are the forsaken. We will soon be forgotten. Min felt something burn in his chest, anger at the Council, sadness for these people, but mostly determination. No, he said firmly, not on my watch. He immediately opened a channel to Earth Command. Admiral Jin appeared on the screen, her face serious. Captain, report. Admiral, I've found refugees, hundreds of ships, thousands of people. They're dying and they need help now. Min sent all the data he had gathered. He sent A's story. He sent the recordings of the failing ships and the desperate life signs. Jin watched everything. Her expression didn't change, but Min could see her mind working. Finally, she spoke. This is a decision above my authority, Captain. I'm sending this to the President immediately. In the meantime, do what you can to stabilize those ships. Yes, ma'am. Min turned back to listen to me. We're humans. We're new to space and we don't know all the politics out here, but we know right from wrong, and leaving you to die out here, that's wrong. My people are deciding what to do, but until then we're going to help you. The Council will punish you, I warned. Let them try, Min said with a fierce smile. We've survived worse than politicians. Over the next hours, Min's small patrol ship became a lifeline. They sent power cells to the dying ships. They transmitted repair instructions. They organized the fleet into a formation to share resources. It wasn't much, but it kept people alive. And back on Earth, in the grand chamber of the United Assembly, the most important debate in human history was beginning. President Ho stood before the gathered representatives of every nation on Earth and presented them with a choice. Would humanity welcome Would they defy the most powerful force in the galaxy for the sake of strangers? Would they risk everything they had built among the stars for people they had just met? The debate would rage for hours. Arguments would be fierce. Fear would battle compassion. Logic would clash with morality. But in the cold void of space, Captain Min kept working. He kept helping. Because for him, the answer was already clear. These people needed help. Therefore, humans would help them. It was that simple. Whether Earth agreed with him would determine the future of humanity among the stars. The United Assembly Chamber was packed with people. Representatives from every nation on Earth sat in their seats, watching the holographic display that showed the dying fleet. Some faces showed compassion. Others showed fear. Many showed both. Ambassador Dong stood at his podium, his voice steady and logical. He was known for being careful, for thinking 10 steps ahead. Right now, he was explaining why helping the would be a terrible mistake. We must think about Earth's future, he said, his hands gripping the podium. We've only been part of the galactic community for 100 years. 100 years. We're children compared to civilizations that are thousands of years old. The Galactic Council has 10,000 member species. 10,000. And we're going to make enemies of all of them for strangers. Many representatives nodded. It made sense. It was logical. We have colonies on 3 worlds, Dong continued. We have trade agreements that bring medicine, technology, and food to Earth. If the Council sanctions us, millions of humans could suffer. Is that worth it? Can we really risk everything we've built? The chamber filled with worried whispers. Parents thought of their children. Leaders thought of their people. Everyone thought about the cost. Then Commander stood up. She was older than Dong, her hair gray, her face marked with scars from the first contact war 30 years ago. She had been there when humanity first met alien life. She had fought when that first meeting went wrong. She had survived and helped build the peace that followed. She walked slowly to the center of the chamber, not to a podium, but to the open floor where everyone could see her clearly. "I understand the ambassador's fears," she said quietly. "They're real, the risks are real, but I want to tell you all a story from Earth's history." The chamber grew quiet, was respected by everyone. In 1939, a ship full of refugees tried to find safety. They sailed to country after country, knocking on doors, begging for help. They were running from genocide. They were desperate, and every nation turned them away, every single one. Those people were sent back, and most of them died in the Holocaust. Her voice grew stronger. "That event haunted us for generations. We built monuments. We said never again. We promised we would never turn away people fleeing death, and now we have a chance to prove we meant those words." She pointed at the holographic display showing the ships. "These people refused to commit genocide. They chose exile rather than murder innocent lives, and we're debating whether to help them. What does that say about us?" "We're not the same as those refugees," someone shouted. "This is different." "How?" asked simply. "Because they're aliens, because they don't look like us, because helping them might be inconvenient." She shook her head. "We cannot join the stars by becoming what we once hated on Earth. We cannot build a better future by abandoning those in need." The debate raged for hours. Speaker after speaker came forward. Some supported, others supported Dong. The arguments went in circles. Finally, President Ho stood. The chamber fell silent. Everyone waited to hear what he would say. Ho was not a young man. He had lived through hard times. He had seen humanity at its worst and its best. He had led Earth through difficult years, always trying to do what was right, even when it was hard. "I've listened to everyone," he said. "I've heard the logical arguments. I've heard the moral arguments. I've heard the fear and the hope, and now I will make a decision." He paused, looking around the chamber at all the faces watching him. "Earth will welcome every ship, every person. We will give them sanctuary, resources, and a place to rebuild their lives." Gasps filled the chamber. Some people started to protest. Ho raised his hand. "I know the risks. I know the council might punish us. I know we might lose trade, allies, and advantages. I know all of this." He straightened his shoulders. "But I also know who we are. We are humans. We have survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters. We have climbed from caves to the stars. And we did it because we learned to help each other, even when it was hard." His voice grew passionate. "If the price of joining the galactic community is abandoning our humanity, then that price is too high. If the council punishes us for showing compassion, then they're not worthy of our respect. We will face the consequences. We will face them as we've always faced oppression and threats, by standing for what's right." The chamber erupted. Half the people cheered, half shouted protests, but the decision was made. Within hours, orders went out. Every Earth Defense Force ship in the area was sent to escort the fleet back to Earth orbit. Medical ships prepared. Supplies were gathered. Orbital stations cleared space to house thousands of refugees. When the fleet finally arrived at Earth, what they saw stunned them. Hundreds of human ships surrounded them, not as guards but as escorts. Space stations opened their docks. Supply ships brought food, medicine, and repair materials. On Earth below, nations competed to offer land for settlements. Cities organized welcome ceremonies. Schools prepared to teach children alongside human kids. A stood on the bridge of his ship, watching it all through tear-filled eyes. His people had expected to die forgotten in the void. Instead, they were seeing something they had thought impossible: unconditional kindness from strangers. "Why?" he whispered. "Why are they doing this?" A human officer, lieutenant, stood beside him. She smiled gently. "Because you needed help, that's reason enough." "But the council, the consequences." "We know about consequences," said. "We've faced them before, we'll face them again. But we won't face them alone, and neither will you." A requested a meeting with President Ho. They met in a simple room, not a grand hall, just two leaders sitting across from each other. "I must know," A said. "We are strangers. We have nothing to offer you. We are exiles, criminals in the eyes of the galaxy. Why would you risk everything for us?" Ho poured tea for both of them, a simple human gesture of hospitality. "My grandmother was a refugee," he said quietly. "She fled war when she was a child. She traveled across an ocean with nothing but hope, and strangers took her in. They gave her food, shelter, and safety. She never forgot that kindness." He looked up at her. "She used to tell me, the greatest thing any person can do is help someone who cannot repay them. You cannot repay us, you have nothing we need, but you need help and we can give it. That's enough." "The council will come," warned. "Let them come," Ho said with a slight smile. "We'll deal with that when it happens. Right now, your people need rest, food, and safety. Let us worry about the politics." Over the following weeks, something beautiful happened. Families were housed in communities across Earth. Human children played with children. Teachers learned to teach new kinds of students. Doctors learned new kinds of biology. Artists collaborated across species. Yes, there were challenges. Yes, there were misunderstandings. But there was also laughter, friendship, and hope. And in the depths of space, the Galactic Council received reports of Earth's decision. In their grand chambers, far from Earth, powerful beings gathered to discuss what to do about the humans who dared to defy them. Ambassador, a tall being with 3 eyes and scales like armor, smiled coldly. "So the humans want to play politics with forces beyond their understanding. Very well. Let us teach these children their place in the galaxy." Orders were sent. An ultimatum was prepared, and a council ship set course for Earth, carrying a message that would change everything. The council ship arrived at Earth orbit exactly 3 weeks after they were welcomed. It was massive, bigger than any human vessel, covered in symbols of authority that glowed with power. It did not ask for permission to approach. It simply came, as if Earth were already under its control. Ambassador materialized in the Earth Diplomatic Center through advanced teleportation technology. He was tall, imposing, with 3 eyes that seemed to look through people rather than at them. His scales reflected light like dark mirrors, and his voice carried the weight of someone used to being obeyed without question. Director Na of Earth's Diplomatic Corps met him in the reception hall. She was a small woman compared to, barely reaching his chest. But she stood straight, her face calm and professional. "Ambassador," she said with a slight bow, "welcome to Earth." "I am not here for pleasantries," said coldly. "I am here with an ultimatum from the Galactic Council." He activated a holographic display that showed official council seals and documentation. The message was clear and brutal. Earth had 24 hours to surrender all refugees, every single one. They would be returned to council custody for proper processing. If Earth refused, the consequences would be immediate. All trade agreements would be terminated. All technology sharing would cease. Earth's 3 colony worlds would be declared independent, cutting them off from Earth support. Human ships would be banned from council space. Earth would be reclassified as a rogue state, an enemy of galactic civilization. "You have 1 day," said. "Choose wisely." Na listened to everything. She read through all the documents. She made sure she understood every threat, every consequence. Then she looked up at the ambassador with eyes that didn't show fear. "I need to clarify something," she said calmly. "You want us to hand over thousands of refugees who we've welcomed into our homes, people who committed no crime except refusing to murder innocents. You want us to betray them so we can keep our trade routes and technology agreements." "Exactly," said. "See, you understand perfectly. This is simple politics." "And if we refuse?" 3 eyes narrowed. "Then you condemn your species to isolation. You are infants among the stars, Director. Your technology is primitive compared to ours. Your ships are slow. Your weapons are toys. Without Council support, you will be alone in a hostile galaxy." Null was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood from her chair and walked to the large window that showed Earth rotating below. The planet was beautiful, blue and green and alive. "Do you know what humans have survived, Ambassador?" she asked softly. "We survived ice ages that covered our world. We survived plagues that killed half our population. We survived wars so terrible we nearly destroyed ourselves. We survived tyrants, disasters, and horrors that would break lesser species." She turned back to him. "And you know what we learned? We learned that survival isn't about having the best technology or the most powerful weapons. It's about knowing who you are and what you stand for. It's about never abandoning those principles, even when it's hard." "Principles do not fill empty stomachs," said with contempt. "Principles do not protect colonies. Principles do not stop council sanctions." "You're right," Na agreed. "But you know what else? Humans without principles aren't really humans anymore. We've seen what happens when people abandon their morals for convenience. We've seen what we become, and we decided long ago that we would never go back to that darkness." She walked back to her desk and placed both hands on it, leaning forward to look directly at. "Here is Earth's response to your ultimatum. No, we will not surrender we will not betray people who trusted us with their lives. We will not abandon our principles because you find them inconvenient." Scales rippled with anger. "You cannot defy the Council. You are one world against 10,000 civilizations." "Then we are one world that keeps its promises," Na said firmly. "If that makes us criminals in your eyes, then we stand proudly beside thee as criminals. Implement your sanctions, Ambassador. Do your worst. We will survive as we always have because we know who we are." The meeting ended badly. Left furious and within hours, the Council made good on every threat. Trade routes were closed immediately. The 3 human colony worlds, New Sol, Nova Terra, and Harmony Station, suddenly found supply ships turned away. Technology sharing agreements were canceled. Human diplomats were expelled from Council stations. Earth embassies were closed. It should have been a disaster. Earth should have been crippled. But something unexpected happened. They began sharing everything they knew. Technology that had taken the Council thousands of years to develop was given freely to humans. Not as payment, they didn't see it that way. It was gratitude. It was cooperation. It was what friends did for each other. Engineers named one and worked alongside scientists, learning new physics principles. The faster-than-light drives that human ships used became twice as fast within weeks. Energy systems became more efficient. Materials science leaped forward decades. Dr. Mi-sun, Earth's leading, discovered that medical knowledge could cure diseases humans had struggled with for centuries. Cancer treatments became simple. Genetic disorders could be corrected. Human increased. Agricultural experts learned farming techniques that could triple crop yields while using half the resources. Water purification systems improved dramatically. Food production soared. But the most amazing discovery came from something uniquely: their empathic abilities. They could sense emotions, but it was more than that. They could share feelings, understand mental states, and help resolve psychological problems that human doctors struggled with. Anamda began working with human psychologists, teaching them techniques that revolutionized mental health treatment. Trauma patients recovered faster, conflicts resolved easier, communication between different groups improved. They weren't just refugees, they were partners, friends, and teachers. Within 3 months of the Council's sanctions, Earth's technology had advanced so much that the sanctions became meaningless. Why buy Council technology when Earth could now build better systems? Why trade with Council merchants when Earth could produce everything it needed? The 3 colony worlds, cut off from Council support, actually thrived. Without Council restrictions, they developed faster. New Sol became a hub of innovation. Nova Terra's agriculture fed millions. Harmony Station expanded into a major shipyard. Admiral Sangwoo, head of Earth's military, met with tactical advisors and completely restructured the defense forces. They had been peacekeepers for thousands of years. They knew strategy, diplomacy, and warfare better than any human commander. Your weapons are less advanced, explained during one planning session. But your thinking is flexible. You adapt quickly. You work together naturally. The Council's military is powerful but rigid. They follow ancient tactics because those tactics always worked. But against an enemy who thinks differently, those tactics become predictable. Sangwoo smiled. So we use what we're good at, adaptation and cooperation, against their strength. Exactly, I said, and we teach you what we know. Earth's military didn't become more aggressive. Instead, it became smarter, faster, and more coordinated than ever before. Defense networks were upgraded. Response times improved. Human and crews trained together, learning to work as one. But despite all this progress, everyone knew the truth. The Council would not accept Earth's defiance forever. Eventually, they would send more than diplomats and sanctions. Eventually, they would send warships. Director Na stood on the observation deck of Earth's main orbital station, watching and human ships patrol together. She had made her choice 3 months ago, standing up too. She didn't regret it. But she also knew that the consequences were still coming. The real test was yet to begin. President Ho joined her at the window. "Any regrets?" he asked quietly. "None," Na said, "but I worry about what comes next." "So do I," Ho admitted. "But we'll face it together, humans, and we made our choice. Now we live with it." Below them, Earth continued to spin. Life continued. People laughed, worked, loved, and dreamed. And in orbit, 2 species that had been strangers 4 months ago stood guard together, preparing for whatever the galaxy would throw at them next. Seoul University had become a fascinating place. Human students sat next to students in classes. Professors from both species taught together. It was late evening when Professor Sung found himself in his office with a teacher who specialized in philosophy and history. They had been discussing cultural differences, sharing stories about their worlds and peoples. It was friendly, casual, the kind of conversation that happened naturally between colleagues who had become friends. Sung made tea while I looked at photos on his desk, pictures of his family, his children, his life. "Your species bonds so deeply with those you love," I said softly. "It's beautiful." "Don't they feel the same?" Sung asked, handing her a cup of tea. "We do, but differently. Our empathic bonds make us feel connections more intensely." I paused, her luminous eyes growing sad. "That's why what happened to the Myra hurt us so much. We could feel their fear, their pain, their desperation. The Council wanted us to ignore those feelings and kill them anyway." Sung had heard about the Myra before. They were the species that had refused to exterminate. But he had never asked for details. Now, in the quiet of his office, he found himself curious. What were they like, the Myra? I set down her tea, her hands trembling slightly. They were remarkable, peaceful, intelligent, kind. But they had something that terrified the Council. "What do you mean?" I looked at him for a long moment as if deciding whether to continue. Finally, she spoke. The Myra could share memories and knowledge instantly across their entire population. Every Myra was connected to every other Myra. No hierarchy, no secrets, perfect cooperation. Sung felt a chill run down his spine. "That sounds incredible." "It was," I said. They were building a civilization unlike anything the galaxy had seen. No government was needed because everyone understood everyone else perfectly. No wars because conflict was resolved the moment it started. No poverty because resources were shared automatically. They were proving that a species could thrive without the rigid power structures the Council depends on. "And the Council saw that as a threat," Sung said slowly, understanding dawning on him. "The Council is built on control," I explained. Ancient species control younger ones. Powerful civilizations dominate weaker ones. Trade is controlled. Technology is controlled. Information is controlled. Everything is about maintaining the hierarchy. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights of Seoul below. The Myra proved you don't need that. They showed that cooperation could work better than control. Other species started noticing. Some started questioning why they needed the council at all. So the council decided to eliminate them, Sung said, feeling sick. They created lies, I said bitterly. They said the Myra were dangerous, that their mental connections made them unstable, that they were a threat to galactic security. It was all false, but it gave the council the excuse they needed. Sung was quiet, processing this information. Then something occurred to him. What happened to the Myra? Were they all killed? A turned back to him, tears visible in her glowing eyes. We don't know. They were exiled before the order was carried out, but given the council's determination, she didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. They sat in heavy silence for several minutes. Then spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. Professor Sung, there's something else you need to know. Something we've been afraid to tell humans. What is it? Earth was on the councils. You were being evaluated for the same treatment as the Myra. Sung stood up so fast his chair fell over. What? A nodded sadly. Humanity showed the same warning signs. Rapid technological advancement, stubborn independence, a preference for cooperation over domination. You don't fit the council's model of how species should develop. Are you saying they were planning to kill all humans? Not immediately, I said quickly. The council debates these things for years. They were watching Earth, gathering data, arguing about whether you were a threat. But yes, eventually they would have made a decision. And given the pattern, she didn't need to finish. Sung felt cold. He stumbled back to his chair and sat down hard. Does anyone else know this? Knows. Some of our elders know. We've been afraid to tell your leaders because we didn't want to create panic. Walked over and knelt beside his chair. But the truth is, Professor, your president's decision to help us probably saved humanity. How? The council was divided on Earth. Some members argued you were too useful to eliminate your creativity, your adaptability, your potential. Others argued you were too dangerous for those same reasons. The debate had been going on for decades, but when Earth the council to help us, that forced their hand. They had to respond immediately rather than carefully plan, and in their rush to punish you, they gave you time to prepare. Sung rubbed his face with both hands. We need to tell President Ho. The public needs to know. I know, I said. That's why I'm telling you now. You're well respected. If this information comes from you, people will believe it. The meeting with President Ho happened the next morning. Sung and presented everything they knew. Maps of Myra space, council documents that I had saved, evidence of Earth's evaluation. President Ho listened to everything without interrupting. When they finished, he sat back in his chair and was quiet for a long time. How certain are you about Earth being targeted? He finally asked. The council follows patterns, I explained. Every species that showed the traits you have, independence, rapid advancement, cooperative tendencies, has been eliminated or forcefully integrated into council control. There are no exceptions in the past 1,000 years. So by helping you, we simply moved up their timeline, Ho said. We were going to face them eventually. Yes, sir, I said. But now you face them with allies, with advanced technology, and with warning. Before, you would have been caught completely unprepared. Dr. Mi-sun, who had been called to the meeting as Earth's expert on alien biology, spoke up. Mr. President, this changes everything. This isn't just about politics or sanctions anymore. This is about survival. If what it says is true, the Council won't stop until Earth is either controlled or destroyed. Then we need to prepare, Ho said firmly. Not just for defense, but for the truth to be known. If the Council has been systematically eliminating species that don't fit their model, the entire galaxy needs to know. Admiral Sangwoo, also present at the meeting, nodded. Sir, I recommend we begin expanding our defense networks immediately. Hidden shipyards, advanced warning systems, alliance building with other species who might be sympathetic. Agreed, Ho said, but we also broadcast what we've learned. Every frequency, every channel. Let the galaxy hear the truth about the Myra, about Earth's evaluation, about the Council's systematic elimination of independent species. That will make the Council furious, Dr. Misun warned. Good, Ho said with a hard smile. Let them be furious. Let them be exposed. We're done playing by their rules. Over the next few days, Earth's communication networks broadcast the truth across the galaxy. The story of the Myra, evidence of their genocide, proof of the Council's pattern of eliminating species that showed too much independence. The response was immediate and chaotic. Some species denounced it as human propaganda. Others demanded investigations. A few brave souls began speaking up about suspicions they had held for years. And in the depths of space, species that had lived under Council control for generations began to wonder. If the Council did this to the Myra, if they planned this for humans, could we be next? The galaxy was changing. Seeds of doubt were planted. Questions were asked. And Earth, the young species that had dared to help exiled refugees, became the center of something much bigger than anyone had anticipated. A rebellion was beginning, not with weapons, not with armies, but with truth spoken by those brave enough to say it aloud. The response to Earth's broadcasts came faster than anyone expected. Within days, coded messages began arriving from across the galaxy. Species that had been silent for centuries suddenly found their voices. Some sent intelligence about Council movements. Others offered covert support. A few brave souls did something even more dramatic. Captain Min was the first to encounter them. His patrol ship detected a small vessel approaching Earth space, broadcasting a distress signal in multiple languages. When he intercepted, he found a family of aliens he didn't recognize. They looked like large insects with iridescent shells and multiple arms. "We seek sanctuary," the father said through the translation system, his voice trembling. "We heard Earth welcomes those fleeing the Council. We can offer nothing but our skills and our loyalty. Please, our children need safety." Min didn't hesitate. "You're welcome here. Follow my ship to Earth orbit. You'll be safe." It wasn't the last time. Over the next weeks, dozens of ships arrived. Different species, different stories, but all seeking the same thing: freedom from Council control. Earth's orbit began to fill with refugees from across the galaxy. President Ho addressed Earth's citizens with honesty. "We started by helping now others are coming to us, seeking the same hope. I won't lie to you, this makes our situation more dangerous. The Council will see this as rebellion. But I ask you, how can we turn away people seeking freedom? How can we be the beacon we claim to be if we only shine for some?" The vote was overwhelming. Earth would welcome all who came in peace. Orbital habitats expanded rapidly. The help designed them, humans built them, and the new refugees helped maintain them. A community was forming, not just human, but something new. But the Council was not idle. Ambassador returned to Council space and delivered his report with barely contained rage. "The humans have infected the galaxy with their dangerous ideals. They shelter criminals. They spread lies about the Council. They turn species against the natural order. This cannot stand." The Council convened in their grand chamber, a space station so massive it had its own gravity. Representatives from the most powerful species in the galaxy gathered to decide Earth's fate. "We must make an example," argued. "Send a fleet, blockade their world, force them to submit." But some Council members were hesitant. "They've done nothing except offer sanctuary," one representative said. "If we attack them for that, we prove their accusations correct." They defy us, shouted. That alone justifies action. The debate raged for days. Finally, a decision was made. A council armada would go to Earth, not to destroy, but to remind them of their place. A show of force, a demonstration of power. The humans would see the might of the council and surrender. The fleet was massive. 200 warships, each larger and more advanced than anything humans possessed. It would arrive at Earth, demand submission, and if the humans refused, orbital bombardment would begin. Not enough to destroy Earth, but enough to make them hurt, enough to break their will. Commander Bora stood on the bridge of her ship, watching the Council fleet approach on long-range sensors. She commanded Earth's defense fleet, 40 ships, most of them upgraded with technology but still outmatched. They outgun us 5-1, her tactical officer said quietly. I know, Bora replied, but we're not alone. Around Earth's orbit, something remarkable had happened. The refugees, the independent species who had fled to Earth, they all volunteered to defend their new home. Ships of every design and size formed up alongside human vessels. They weren't many, and they weren't powerful, but they were there. All ships, Bora broadcast. This is it. The Council is coming to force us to submit. They think we'll break because we're outnumbered. They're wrong. We stand not for Earth alone, but for the idea that compassion is not weakness, that independence is not crime, and that every being deserves freedom. Captain Wu listened to Bora's words from his small corvette. He was young, maybe too young for this command, but he had volunteered without hesitation. His ship was one of the smallest in the fleet, barely more than a patrol vessel with upgraded weapons. All crew, he told his team. Whatever happens today, remember why we're here. We're defending people who had nowhere else to go. That's worth fighting for. The Battle of Sol began at dawn Earth time. The Council fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system, their ships gleaming with power. They expected fear. They expected humans to immediately hail them and beg for mercy. Instead, they found Earth's defense fleet waiting, arranged in a formation the Council had never seen before. Ships of different species working together, moving as one, united by a common purpose. Attention Earth forces, came the broadcast from the Council flagship. You are ordered to stand down immediately. Surrender all refugees. Submit to Council authority. Resist and you will be destroyed. Bora took a deep breath. Then she responded. Attention Council fleet. You are ordered to leave Sol space immediately. We will not surrender people who trusted us. We will not submit to tyranny. And if you attack, you'll discover that humans don't break easily. The Council commander's response was to open fire. The battle that followed was fierce and chaotic. Council ships were more advanced, but Earth's forces fought with desperate courage. Tactical advisors coordinated defenses perfectly. Human pilots used maneuvers no Council officer expected. Refugee ships, though small, harassed larger vessels with hit-and-run tactics. Captain Wu's corvette danced through space, dodging fire from a massive Council cruiser. His ship was hit repeatedly, shields failing, hull breaching. His crew fought to keep systems online as alarms blared throughout the vessel. Life support is critical, his engineer shouted. We have to retreat. Not yet, Wu said through gritted teeth. Get me one more shot at their engine core. His gunner lined up perfectly and fired. The shot penetrated the Council ship's shields and struck a critical point. The massive cruiser began to list, its engines failing. But the victory was short-lived. Another Council ship locked weapons on Wu's corvette. His shields were gone. His engines were damaged. There was no escape. Brace for impact, Wu said calmly to his crew. It's been an honor serving with you all. The Council ship charged its weapons. The crew of the corvette prepared to die. Wu closed his eyes, thinking of his family on Earth below. Then something extraordinary happened. The Council ship didn't fire. Instead, its weapons powered down. Confusion spread across Wu's bridge until they received a transmission. "Human vessel, this is the crew of Council warship Retribution. We will not fire. We refuse this order." Across the battlefield, similar events began occurring. Council ships ceased firing, crews against their commanders, entire vessels from the fight. On the bridge of one Council ship, a young officer stood and faced her captain. "I will not fire on people whose only crime was showing mercy. I will not attack a world that shelters the helpless. This is wrong, and I will not do it." Others joined her. More and more crew members refused to fight. The Council fleet, so mighty and confident, began to fracture from within. The Council commander, watching his fleet rebel, finally understood what humans had known all along. You cannot force people to fight against their conscience forever. You cannot make them destroy those who showed kindness to the weak. The Council fleet in disarray, leaving behind disabled ships and confused commanders. Earth's defense fleet held their position, battered but victorious, watching as the mighty armada retreated. On Earth, billions of people watched the battle through live feeds. When the Council fleet left, the cheering could be heard from space. But the consequences of that day spread far beyond Earth. Within a week, 12 species formally announced their departure from the Galactic Council. They issued a joint statement praising Earth's courage and condemning the Council's tyranny. More species followed. The Council, which had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, suddenly found its authority questioned by hundreds of worlds. Ambassador, the same being who had brought threats to Earth months before, requested another meeting. This time, he came without arrogance, without threats. He came with a request. Director Na met him again, this time in a larger conference room. Representatives from the new refugee species, from the rebel worlds, all sat beside her. "The Council is fractured," admitted, his voice tired. "Old powers are collapsing. Species that were afraid to speak are now demanding change. And in all the chaos, hundreds of worlds look to Earth as a model for something different." "What are you asking?" Na said carefully. "Help us rebuild," said simply. "Show us how to create a galactic community based on cooperation instead of control. Teach us what you've learned. We need to change." Na looked at President Ho, who had joined the meeting. He nodded slightly. "We'll help," Na said, "but on our terms. No more hierarchies of power. No more eliminating species that think differently. No more tyranny disguised as order. If we're building something new, it has to be truly better." "Agreed," said, and for the first time he showed something like respect. The work of building a new galactic order would take years, maybe centuries. There would be setbacks, challenges, and conflicts, but something fundamental had changed. I stood with President Ho on an observation deck overlooking Earth. The planet below was home now to 70 different species, all living together, learning from each other, building something unprecedented. "We came here to die," I said softly, his glowing eyes reflecting Earth's light. "We were forsaken, unwanted, abandoned by the galaxy, and then we found you." "You found hope," Ho corrected gently. "You found people who refused to let compassion be a weakness." "You taught us something we had forgotten," I said. "You taught us that the greatest strength in the universe isn't technology or weapons or power. It's the simple, revolutionary act of welcoming the outcast and standing beside them, no matter the cost." Ho smiled. "We learned that from our own history. We learned it the hard way, through centuries of mistakes and pain. We promised ourselves we'd never forget, and when you needed help, we remembered that promise." Below them, human children played with children. Engineers from a dozen species worked together on new projects. Artists collaborated across cultural barriers. It wasn't perfect. There were still problems, misunderstandings, conflicts, but there was also hope, friendship, and the promise of something better. The galaxy was changing. The old order was dying. And at the center of that change was a small blue world that had dared to offer sanctuary, that had stood firm against threats, and that had proven once and for all that compassion, not power, was the true measure of civilization. Earth had welcomed the Forsaken, and in doing so, it had shown the galaxy a better path forward.